Elon Musk decided to do something unusual today. Now, it's not the first time he's done something unusual, as you would imagine, but today he did something quite extraordinary. He decided to go to Auschwitz, and as you're watching now, you can see he's holding his hand with his 3-year-old son, who came along with him. The panel's here with me, and I'm going to talk to them about this in a moment. He laid a wreath. You can see the snow on the ground. It's an incredibly touching place to go. He met with some community leaders there. It was an EJA delegation to Auschwitz, as you can see. Part of the reason for him going was, of course, the antisemitism row that he got embroiled in a few months ago last year. He lit some candles. He talked a little bit about how touched he was to be there, but it just seems to me that it was a very strange thing for him to do, and an awful lot of people have now said that it is a very, very weird thing that he did do. And should he have brought his 3-year-old son with him? My panel is here, as I say, so I'd like to get their reaction. Emma Wolf, Leon Morelli and Ryan Saby. We're sort of used to Elon Musk doing strange things, aren't we? But this is stranger than anything, isn't it?
I just wonder if it was a corporate response to what he was accused of before.
Yeah.
You go to Auschwitz and you're seen very visually to be partaking in the sort of lighting of candles or whatever it may well be.
But I just don't think it's a place that it's. I mean, it's such an.
It's not a tourist attraction.
An awful place that it's not a place that you go to make a point, is it?
Yeah.
Well, you called it touching. I call it really quite a chilling place. I just remember walking around feeling very, very empty and very, very kind of unsettled by it all.
Yeah.
I absolutely wouldn't take my 3-year-old to this place.
Yeah.
But then I wouldn't call my toddler X, and he's called his toddler X.
Yeah.
His child X. But I mean, tourists do odd things.
I know. I mean, some people go there.
People are taking selfies
Instagram
there.
Selfies.
It's changed from what it really should be, which is a memorial.
Yes, but I mean, Elon Musk isn't just any old, influencer who's gone to take a picture of themselves at Auschwitz, is he? I mean, he's a very sort of well-known figure, and whatever people think of him, they pay a lot of attention to what he does and what he says. So
I think it's great that he's there in a way, because he clearly had some issues with what he was liking on Twitter, what he was reacting to on Twitter that may have been perceived as anti-Semitic. But I think the bringing your 3-year-old there is where it looks a bit strange, and the optics of the kid on his shoulders if he's at Disneyland or something. And you have to
also, when he was walking, holding his hand, the kid was doing what all 3-year-olds do, which is sort of playing about, looking the other way. Wasn't really that involved in where they were, clearly.
I don't think a 3-year-old would have the faintest notion of what is going on there, what had happened there. And I really hope he didn't take him into, I mean, there are gas chambers there, there's all sorts that you wouldn't really just not appropriate, really.
You wouldn't be wanting to have that conversation with your 3-year-old, would you?
No.
What happened here, Daddy, and,
Yeah, I think I've got 2 young girls, aged 12 and 9. I think probably then they start to learn things at school and they go through the history books that you feel that perhaps then that's about the appropriate age. But 3 just seems far, far too young.
It does. We've got a lot of stories to get through today. I should ask you if there's any updates on the Simon Clarke scenario before we go any further.
Well, interesting. There seems to be a rearguard action from Downing Street from this evening in terms of Tory MPs coming out and being very, very supportive of Rishi Sunak and attacking Simon Clarke's article that he's done in the Telegraph this evening. Liam Fox, Priti Patel, David Davis have all spoken about what sort of a selfish act that this is.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
That this is certainly not the right time to do it.
Right.
So it seems, rather silly.
Because Priti Patel's meant to be part of that movement that Liz Truss is organising.
Exactly.
So they've already split then, have they?
I think the fact is that...
That didn't take long.
Yeah.
So you said 6 families. We've said 7 families now.
There's even more families, come to the fore on this. But I think that Liam Fox mentions in one of his quotes that it's pretty miserable in opposition.
Yeah.
So just,
people do say that. Careful what you wish for. You say, we're going to opposition for a while. No, it's horrendous. You can't do anything. You don't get to meet anybody. Nobody cares who you are. Nobody asks you to come on TV shows anymore.
The big
lonely
fear,
existence.
The big fear would be that they'll be out of power for about a decade. Because
his piece in the Telegraph says they will go extinct unless they oust soon.
And that was what William Hague was saying a couple of months ago now. He was saying, the landscape is changing so much that they may never come back into power. And that's not just any old,
No.
That's William Hague saying it.
It's pretty emotive language from Simon Clarke. He talks about a massacre if they don't change leader. Extinction of the whole party is a very real possibility. He's not holding back. He thinks things have got so bad that they have to, have to improve.
It's hard to disagree with him, to be honest. I mean, there's nothing much to look forward to, is there?
No, there isn't. I mean, all eyes on tomorrow is what I would say, because if we start to get other MPs, and in particular those in cabinet, if they start agitating or it looks as though there might be some momentum behind Simon Clarke, then I think Sunak's potentially got to worry. But it does seem as though they've built this sort of shield around him with those Conservative MPs coming out and defending him. So, I think he is probably going to be the guy that leads them into the election. It doesn't look pretty. He hasn't got much to go on. I think it will be a massacre, or it will be very difficult for them. But who's the alternative? Simon Clarke hasn't put that forward. Is it him? Because I don't think he's going to do much better.
I don't think he is, no. Let's talk about a few of the other things before we get to the rest of the papers. Civil servants have told business leaders to collect gender pay gap figures based on how workers identify. We touched upon this a little bit last night, but I mean, this is mad, isn't it? Completely and utterly bonkers.
Yeah, and...
it makes a mockery of data altogether, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Downing Street have told Kemi Badenoch to get involved. She's very keen to get involved in this and actually make sure that, the data is collected on the basis of your biological sex and rather than the one you identify with.
What's the point of doing a gender pay gap if you're asking people what gender they are and there's 72 genders? You'll be there all day and you won't really get anything worth a fag end, will you?
It's just so ludicrous. It's hard not to laugh. But also, I mean, let's just be honest, there aren't going to be that many... well, I suppose, no, actually, if you're reporting on all employees, I was thinking there aren't going to be that many high-earning people that identify as the opposite gender who's, it's not going to skew the figures. But actually, in these big companies, I think it's companies over 250 employees who have to report.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess if you are asking all the companies to report all of their gender... I mean, I just think that the trans... population is actually really quite tiny, and we get so blown up about these issues. And I mean, I'm more concerned about it amongst the young, because I think we're seeing a real growth. And I'm sure you saw the stories yesterday about boarding schools allowing pupils who identify as the opposite gender to sleep in dormitories of the opposite gender.
Well, this is when it starts
it's a recipe for chaos with teenagers. I mean, for goodness sake.
Well, that's just how we saw the death knell for Nicola Sturgeon, wasn't it? As soon as they started putting a man into a woman's prison, suddenly the theory didn't seem to work in practice, and that was when it all came tumbling down. Same for the schools. Yeah. If you start putting boys into girls' dormitories when they're 16 or 17...
I think you'll have half the parents pulling their children out of schools.
Well, it's the majority bending to the minority again, isn't it? And we can't be in a situation where that happens. And this is unnecessary bureaucracy on these businesses. I think the gender pay gap in itself, I think, needs to be questioned. Because I'm not questioning that there isn't disparity between genders in the workplace, but this is such a poor metric for actually measuring gender disparity, because a lot of women choose not to work or reduce their hours after children, as do men. But I think it's just a terrible metric, and this is just more bureaucracy, let alone now they have to look at the trans.
But this is what happened to the councils, wasn't it? Because they got embroiled in this gender pay gap problem where they realised that women were being paid less than men, genuinely in some jobs. But then they started to change the categories and go, well, maybe a woman's job is different to a man's job, but they should be paid equally, even though they're different jobs. And it all got very confused.
And if all the councils have done that, you wonder why so many are about to go bankrupt.
Well, exactly, because that's a lot of the reason why they haven't got the money, because they suddenly went, oh, God, we've got all this money to catch up and pay in reparations to people.
But you think Kemi Badenoch would have, she may have to get involved in this, but she's got bigger things to worry about. Trade deals around the world, post office comes under her remit as well. There's plenty of her to be getting on with.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's talk about the Royal Mail. Saturday letter service shouldn't be abolished, according to Downing Street. I mean, again, they'll be worried about their letters coming in a different way. But as I said, I understand why some people don't want to do away with it. But the Royal Mail is in such a bad way after the post office scandal. Now they've got union problems. They've got management problems.
As if the Saturday issue was a problem. The public can't even rely on reliable or sort of non-random deliveries on 5 days of the week, let alone whether or not we get anything on a Saturday. The other day, I received a Christmas card which was sent genuinely 6 weeks ago from someone in Surrey.
Wow.
I mean, that's insane.
It
You
is.
cannot put something in the post with a first-class stamp on it, and by the way, first and second-class stamp have gone through the roof. What are you paying for? You can't put a letter in the post and be assured that it will arrive the next day,
And if you've got something
or even that week.
needs
It's
to
a random
not
thing.
go missing, you end up having to kind of send it registered, or you have to pay to get it couriered, and you pay a lot more money, don't you? Because you can't trust them anymore.
You can't trust them, but also we have moved to technology. It's much easier for most of us to send an email or to send a WhatsApp or whatever. So it's both their own fault and also just the fact that we've moved on.
Yeah, and if you're sending or you're getting medicine or something like that, really important stuff like or documents that you can't lose, you just wouldn't put it in the post.
Well, it just feels like a very analogue business, doesn't it, Royal Mail, in an increasingly digital world.
Totally, like the NHS.
Like the NHS, but I'm not sure where they're going to go from here, Royal Mail. I do think the Saturday issue is quite important for publishers. I receive some weekly magazines on Saturdays, for example. If they don't do the Saturday, I mean, not always on time.
Why could you not receive them on a Friday or a Monday?
Well, I guess they could. That's when they publish. So that's when they go on the Saturday. So it will be very difficult for the publishing industry. I think Rishi Sunak mentioned that in his commentary about why they should stay open on Saturday, why they should deliver.
Yeah, but then sort out the other 5 days. If you're going to focus on Saturdays, I mean, really. Yeah. And the sad thing is, it is important stuff that still people do get, you know, bills, hospital letters, all of that stuff by letter, and that stuff goes astray.
Right. You're screwed. One from today in Parliament, if you like. This is a question by Rachel Maskell from Labour, from York Central, to ask the Secretary of State for Business and Trade whether she has made a recent assessment of the potential merits of bringing the Post Office under public ownership. Answered by Kevin Hollenrake. Post Office Limited is under public ownership. So, I mean, there we are. They're going to be in charge soon, Labour Party.
The bizarre thing about that is every question those MPs put in costs around £200 to answer.
Unbelievable. Let's finish up with Pele. Apparently there's a woman claiming to be the football legend's daughter, and she wants his body exhumed to give it a DNA test. I'm not sure.
I don't think she wants his body exhumed. I think she wants money.
I don't know if he has any money, though. Does Pele have
the
money?
Other siblings are going, no, we definitely don't have an 8th sister. And I'm thinking, because they don't want to split that 60% of whatever they have to.
I don't know that he's got a lot of money, though. I don't, you know, because latterly he was advertising Viagra and all sorts of terrible things that he was advertising.
Well, he would have got a few quid for that.
He would have done, but I mean, presumably he didn't have a lot. I don't think he had a lot of money, because I mean, I know lots of footballers now who are in their 60s who talk about, you know, how they completely missed the boat, you know, when they were playing.
They didn't invest in property or anything like that.
Well, no, they just didn't get the kind of money that you get now.
No.
You think his estate would be worth something, because the Pele name, even now, is worth something, isn't it?
You would think, but who knows? I mean, I don't know what the rules are in Brazil about exhuming bodies, but it's a bit grim, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, you know, the sort of the ultimate thing for a footballer used to be to buy a pub when they retired, because that was about all the money they had.
They'll be buying health bars.
Suddenly now they're buying entire chains of gyms and things. Well, we won't talk about Carl Walker.
No, I was going to say, 8 children or 88 children?
We've got loads more stories to look at. So you're watching The Independent Republic of Mike Graham.